Remember, but it's been a while since we've been here on a Sunday night. So good to see everybody here tonight. I'd like to call to order the meeting tonight. On the agenda, we have one item, and it's to consider a motion from the Music Minister Search Committee. And I'm going to read the motion to you, and it will also be stated on the ballot that you receive also. The Music Minister Search Committee, with the unanimous support of the minister staff and the deacon body of First Baptist Church Fisherville, move that Ryan Krivsky be called as Minister of Music under the terms and conditions previously unanimously approved by the Personnel Committee. This motion comes from a committee, and therefore it does not require a second. At this time, I'd like to call Dr. Ed Champagne, who was the chair of the committee, and he will introduce the members of the committee and outline their process.
Good evening, everyone. You all hear me? Very good. This has been a joy, not just for me, but for the committee. I want to tell you that this committee has just been fantastic. You talk about dedicated people, dedicated to what they were supposed to do, but also to the joy associated with this church. Let me tell you who the committee was just as a reminder. It consisted of Cammie Allen, Kim Avant, Tyler Greer, James Park, who also added the prayer services for us, Nick Ritchie, Dee Dee Smith, Pastor Jeff, and myself. The process that we used was very structured. We wanted to assure that we didn't get involved in personalities, or we didn't want to get involved in just things that had to do with just ministry. So what we did is we set this up in 3 categories: can do, will do, and how fit. Can do is what is the credentials that the person has, what is their achievements, what are their licenses if they have any. Will do is the motivation and interest that the person has. And 3 is how fit. What is their personality and their chemistry? How would they fit with this congregation? Now, I will tell you that you can have the first 2, but if you don't have the third, it won't work. And you can have number 3, you can have a great personality, but if you don't have number 1 or number 2, it will not work. So that's what we did. We began by taking the job description, or the position description, I should say, that the staff gave us, and it was great. They had an outline of exactly what they were looking for. It was perfect. Because if you don't have that, how do you know what you're looking for? It's like going looking for an automobile and just going onto the lot looking. You should know what you were looking for before you get there. Otherwise, you'll buy the wrong product. What we did was we created some bullet points from that position description so that every candidate that we looked at, we would first look at the can do. Now, because we did that, we were easily eliminate a bunch of people right away, that they didn't have what we were looking for. That was the easy part. The second part was a little more difficult. When we get to motivation and interest, we're looking at what has the person achieved in their lives from there? What have they done with their ministry in the amount of time that they've been in service, if you would? What have they accomplished? What have they provided? Have they been on ministry tours? Have they grown choirs? Have they started one where there wasn't any? Have they started one at a church that had been planted, perhaps? I will tell you that dealing with interviews in a church is a lot different than dealing with interviews in Kim Avant, for example, at Briarcrest. She has to take a look at whether it's male or female. Doesn't make any difference what age, what culture background, or anything else. We didn't have anything like that to deal with. We knew, number 1, we wanted a male. That's part of our dealing. Number 2, we were looking at age. We didn't want anybody who was right out of school or young with not a lot of experience. Neither did we want somebody who's at the end of their career who might be using this as a stepping stone to move into the area and retire. We needed somebody to fit our needs, and we had that with the job description, with the position description, plus the basis of what the choir needs. The value of this team is we had 4 people on the team who are in the choir or the music. They brought that to the team. So it was easy for us in the beginning to eliminate some people. The next step was to take those resumes and go through them and say, all right, who is where? And this came to the hard part. That meant everybody had to go home for a week, take the discs if we had them, if they were submitted with a resume, or go on YouTube or something else, find that church and listen to sermons, listen to solos, listen to groups, and that was time-consuming. You come back the next week and everybody would compare their notes as to what I thought about this person or that person, and we started eliminating them. Until we got finally down to 3 people. Before we got to that 3rd person, he already found something else, we think. He backed out. So we had down to 2. Actually, it was the 2 that we had chosen anyway. At that point, we were going to do virtual interviews online, but we could see them when we were doing Zoom. So we did both of those, and then decided to start doing our character references. And Brother Jeff and myself, I called every one of them. Everybody on the team worked except me. I was retired. So I called everybody. You know what it's like to call somebody, you get a voicemail, check back and forth. So I called them all. And then we decided, okay, Reverend Prisky is the one that we really want to invite here. So Jeff did that, and he came up. And I came in and sat down on the staff interview, the group interview. And then Jeff is going to tell you about the rest of that. It has been frustrating because we knew who we wanted, at least who we were going to recommend, and the virus came along and put a stop on that. And frankly, I was concerned that this was going to, make a big decision in him, that he might go somewhere else. But anyway, it turned out well. Once again, I just want to thank the committee for what they did. They put a lot of hours and a lot of time and dedication. And I mentioned this last week, they really played well in the sandbox together, and I appreciate that. So at this point, I'm going to call Nathan back up.
Thank you, Brother Ed. Now I'd like to recognize Dr. Jeff James, our senior pastor, who will speak on behalf of the minister staff.
After the search committee had made their recommendation to the staff of who they wanted to pursue as our music minister, we called Ryan in for an interview. We brought him into town, interviewed him as a group, also interviewed him individually among each staff member, and we were unanimous in saying that we wanted to call him as our next music minister. Then just came the timing part, as Ryan mentioned in the question and answer. Our hope was we were going to have, he wanted to come visit a service. He was going to come visit on March 22nd, and then we were going to have him come in view of a call either the week before Easter or the week after Easter. That was our plans. God had different plans in mind. Obviously, as the quarantine hit, and we weren't able to do that. And so, but I will just say that the Lord has never taken us away from Ryan as our candidate. That in that extended period of time where there could have been a lot of what ifs and there could have been a lot of thoughts of, man, maybe we should have this guy instead. It's kind of like if you go to buy a car and you don't buy it right away and you start thinking about, man, do I really need that car? And then you start kind of nitpicking things. There never was any sense of that. We were always 100% convinced. We felt like this was the man God had led us to. It was simply a matter of opportunity and timing for us to be able to put him in front of the congregation. And so if it had been our timing, this would have taken place in March, but obviously that wasn't God's will. And I think he used that to help us to know for sure this is what we felt like God was calling us to do, both on our part and also on Ryan's part. But we do, as a staff, we unanimously recommend him to our church as our next music minister.
I'd like to take this time to thank the committee for the time that y'all served. And if any of y'all had the privilege of serving on a committee, it is a special thing. I've been fortunate to go through that process, and it was neat as I talked to several people on the committee that they talked about through that time that you would think, man, I don't want to be on that. I don't want to be in that. But when somebody from that committee shares with you how their walk with Christ grew because they were seeking His will in this and removing self from it, that's a special thing. And I really felt this from this committee. But at the same time, I would also like to thank the church because I know there were a lot of prayers. And I really do appreciate that. On behalf of the deacons, we took a vote. All active deacons were there, and it was 100% of the deacon body in support of this motion. At this time, does anybody have any questions or comments for the committee? If not, we'll move forward to the next step. The ballots now will be passed out. This is a little different format than maybe we've done in the past. So when you get your ballot, you can either stay here and wait till the end, or you're dismissed if you would like to leave. As you go out, the black box in the back, place your ballot in there. We will also be accepting ballots in here and in front of the children's building, and ballots can be till 7 o'clock, at which time the ballots will be counted and an announcement will be made. The announcement will be live streamed as well as posted on our website and social media outlets. So once we get all the ballots at 7, probably 7:15, and there may not be anybody in here, I will come back and make the announcement of the vote. Sean and Scott, if y'all will pass out the ballots. If anyone needs a pen, there should be in front. If not,